Action. Okay, so thanks for coming, guys. And as you're aware, this session is, we're going to start looking, well, essentially kindness, but it's innate goodness. And what that means is it's the goodness that's here already. And I'm going to start that with a poem, which I have read before in a session on appreciation, but it sort of has a double meaning. And it's only just revealed its depths to me very recently. And I thought, you know what, that would make a good session. So this was the inspiration for this session today, if I can find it. Okay, here it is. So this is by Schneider, and it's called The Patience of Ordinary Things. It is a kind of love, is it not? How the cup holds the tea, how the chair stands sturdy and foursquare, how the floor receives the bottoms of shoes or toes, how soles of feet know where they're supposed to be. I've been thinking about the patience of ordinary things, how clothes wait respectfully in closets, and soap dries quietly in the dish, and towels drink the wet from the skin of the back, and the lovely repetition of stairs. And what is more generous than a window? So that poem really, you know, it might mean something different to each of us, but it really, to me, it points to that innate goodness, that things don't have to try to be what they are. They just are what they are. The cup doesn't have to put any effort into holding that tea there. And we're very similar to that. We're not similar to a cup, but we have an innate goodness in us, which exists underneath the obscurations, underneath the smoke. And this session, really, we're going to look at what it is. Why are we going to take an interest in it? What makes it hard to see? Some of the things that conceal it. And then we're going to look at bringing a bit more of it into our life, and how the world might look if we can connect with this innate goodness in us and in other people. So why? It's because of this, you know, we're very focused on the negative, essentially, as humans, and we've talked about the negativity bias quite a lot, and this is really an antidote to that, because this kindness is so easily overlooked because it's part of us. So our mind tends to shoot further afield to get things to feel better. So if our focus is on things that aren't quite right, then that doesn't sit very well with most of us. So then we try and seek other things to appease us or to keep us calm or to make us happy. And what this session is about is actually there's a source of goodness within ourselves that will help us to stop looking out there for it. Now, another reason is this: we all have things in us that we don't want to look at. We all have things that we'd rather not see. And to approach those things, which is essential if we're to connect with ourselves, if we're to be whole persons, then we need like a reservoir of kindness and compassion within ourselves. Otherwise, we're going to get battered. if we try and look inside without a decent reservoir of kindness, then we're not going to last very long. So this is a bit like putting on the armor to go and face the demons. So our kindness is something of a protector. And there's a little story that I'm going to read. It highlights this innate goodness. So there was a wise man who lived in a small remote village in India, and he was known for his wisdom and his kindness, and people from all around used to travel to this village to come and see him for answers. And a young boy came to him one day and said to the wise man, he said, "How can I become a better person?" And the sage replied, "You're already a good person. You just don't realize it." And the young man was a little bit confused. So the sage took him to the river, and he asked the boy to look into the river and asked him, "What do you see when you look into the river?" And the boy looked in and he saw his reflection. So he says, "Well, I can see myself. I can see my reflection." The sage says, "Good, good, good." And now he picks up a big rock and chucks a rock into the pool or into the river and asks the boy again to look in and ask him what he can see. And the boy says, "Well, I can see a distorted version of myself." And the sage replied in his explanation that this is what happens in life. Difficulties and challenges can arise in our lives, and they can distort how we see ourselves. And that's one of the obstacles to this innate goodness, is that there's this stuff inside us, but we block ourselves off from it because we build walls to protect ourselves. We all have this bozo-ness, these things about ourselves which we don't like. And sometimes through our shame, we build walls. And then we build so many that we can't really have any kind of view of what we're like. And the other reason it's easy to overlook, or it's not easy to see, is because it's easy to overlook. Because we are it. We're so familiar that we take our own kindness and goodness for granted. And a good thing to do is to ask maybe our loved ones, maybe our friends and family, ask them for things about us, something about our personality, our character traits, and see if they can say something which we probably wouldn't pick up on. Because we're operating, that's our default operating system, then it's like we become complacent, we take ourselves for granted. So what happens then if we start to view things as innately good? If we connect with that innate goodness within ourselves, then we can start connecting with different parts of our experience and see the innate goodness in the things that happen in our lives. So when a difficult emotion arises, instead of the usual recoiling and resistance to it, we can inquire, is there goodness in this message? What is it trying to tell me? Because we naturally can pull away from difficulties. We naturally pull away from pain. And by doing so, we're adding a layer of resistance. And it's like the two arrow sutra of the Buddha. You know, the first arrow is the pain of life. And then the second arrow is our resistance to it. So if we can start, or I guess looking at things in a different way can help us to stop firing that second arrow. And this is about learning to treat events and emotions in our life as good. Now, if we can start to do that, we might be able to reduce the potency of some of these emotions or difficulties. So what is good about pain? What is good about suffering? So essentially, physical pain is a message. It's a message to the body that something isn't quite right. And a hand over a flame will tell us pretty quickly that this isn't good for our skin. And that ow doesn't feel good, but it's actually doing us a service. It's protecting us. So if we can start to look at some of the pains in our life as a way they're arising as a form of protection, then we can start maybe to access a little bit of acceptance with them. And there are difficult times for people where there's chronic pain, and that's a different story. It requires a different form of treatment, but mindfulness can actually really help in that setting too. So we've got physical pain, and then we've got mental pain, and we might describe mental pain as suffering. So this is when the mind says there's something going wrong. But the thing with the mind is it's not as true or as accurate as the body, because the mind is very biased and it comes from our single point of view. And quite often, the mind will camouflage its problems. It will say, there's a problem here, but I'm going to say there's something wrong out there. And we all know this from times when we're not feeling great, when we're in a bit of a stinker, and then everything that we see is affected. People that we meet we're a little bit shorter with. So we can see that it's not necessarily what's going on in the world, but something more to do with the way that we're looking at it. Because the world essentially is not right or wrong. The world just is what it is. So in a sense, the message coming from suffering is in a way highlighting to us where we aren't free, where we've written a rule about the world which might not be true. Now, that's not going to be the case every time, but it's worth investigating if that is true in this case. You know, if I'm having a mental suffering moment, is there truth in it? Is this something I've created, or is this a real thing that I need to deal with? And trauma can affect the mind in the same way that chronic pain affects the body, and it requires a different hand, a different touch. And it's certainly patience, care, attention, and kindness to get to the healing side of that. But whatever arises, whenever we're conscious enough, aware enough, we can ask, how am I treating this moment? That is our power. Now, we might go days or weeks or months without consciously checking in with ourselves. We might be running on autopilot. And we notice this in a meditation. If we sit down for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, we'll notice pretty quickly that the mind drifts into autopilot and starts running off with ideas and thoughts. And we can do that throughout our lives as well. And there'll be times where suffering takes over and we're just in it. But as soon as we become aware, as soon as we're conscious, we can say, how am I treating this moment? Is this situation being made worse by the fact that I'm resisting it or treating it without acceptance? So the last bit of this talk, really, I just want to mention, and this is going a little bit deeper. There's a part of us our awareness, which is always present. It's always here. And if we can start to step back a little bit and drop away those mental labels, we can start pulling away almost everything about our experience. We can pull away the details of our life. They're just words. And we can even come back to direct experience or perception. Because actually all we will ever experience is either a thought or a perception, some form of sense input from touch, smell, taste, sight. So our world, our entire experience is made up of perceptions through the senses and thinking. And we can even, in a bit of an imaginary exercise, we can even start peeling those away, peeling the sight away. Peeling taste, peeling smell, peeling sensations away. And there will always be our awareness that remains here beyond that, or in front of it, or throughout it. And why that's important is because if that is the last thing that can possibly be us, then that is the truest thing about us as well. That we are more awareness than we are any of the objects or stories that arise within awareness. In fact, awareness is the field in which the world arises. From a certain perspective, the world is made of awareness. Objects are made of awareness. Awareness gives light to everything. So Pat Schneider says in the poem, "What is more generous than a window?" And I think she's passed away now, but I think she might even say perhaps awareness is more generous. Awareness is our original state, which gives rise to everything without hesitation, without preference. And awareness has no other characteristics. And without any characteristics, essentially, there is peace. So if we remove everything and we just remain as awareness, there is peace. So our deepest state is peace. And this is an innate goodness that a lot of the wisdom teachings through mysticism and Buddhism and Hinduism talk about. And we don't have to fully get our heads around that. It's kind of a very subtle form of awareness that leads to that kind of insight. But it's worth playing with. So we are going to go into a little mini practice first of all. And it's by no means a mini practice in its effect. It's a very powerful practice. Although it is quite difficult. And what I mean by that is we're going to be asked to remember some kind events, some memories of kindness. And as we go through, it gets a little bit harder with each question. So if I ask a question and it doesn't land, if we're coming up with blanks or blocks or a difficulty, then we're not here to change it. We're not here to wrestle with it. We just notice, okay, I can't think of anything. Nothing's coming up. And just sit with that. Okay, right now, I can't think of anything. And that's absolutely fine. This is a real key practice in mindfulness, because what this does essentially builds up our reservoir of kindness. And what we often find is there's two things. We're not very kind to ourselves, and we're even worse at recognizing when we are kind to ourselves. So just bear that in mind. So just finding a posture, one that feels good, one that feels comfortable. Finding a posture that allows us to remain relaxed, but also gives us a sense of alertness. So just finding a position that allows the body to relax. And then making any adjustments to the position if we need to. Might be little mini adjustments in our seat or shoulders. So we're just going to do this short memories of kindness practice. And to start the meditation, we will focus on the sensation of our hands. So bringing our awareness to sensations in the area of the hands. And just noticing what is there. And we may feel some tingling or fuzziness. We may feel contact with clothing or the body. We may feel the air. We may feel nothing at all. So if we can't feel the hands, then we just have that as the feeling of no feeling. So whatever sensations are there, we're just going to start breathing with those sensations. And the invitation is to deepen the breath. And beginning to extend the exhale slightly, so the inhale and the exhale are the same length. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just a nice even flow of breathing. And at any time during this practice, if we do wonder, if we do go into autopilot and start thinking about other things, that's perfectly normal. We don't stress, we just return our attention, and we'll return it to either the body and maybe the hands, And we'll return it to the breath. So we get a real strong sense of being this body here. And this helps us to stay present. So the first question, I'm going to ask you to recall a time when somebody was kind to you. Can we recall a time when someone was kind to us? It doesn't have to be big. It can be a cup of tea, a smile, a hello. Maybe there's more than one thing. So if there's more than one thing, just picking one of them. And if we haven't got anything, then just being patient with ourselves and not searching too hard. Just relaxing and waiting and see if anything comes up during the practice. So if we can hold that image, however we can we sense into it and notice how it feels in the body? How does it feel when somebody is kind to us? And what about emotions? Emotions and feelings, how do they respond to this act of kindness towards us? And lastly, can we notice any thoughts about it? What kind of thoughts circulate around this act of kindness? So letting that story go, letting that memory fade away, coming back to the breath and the body. Can we recall a time when we were kind to somebody else? How did that feel? Sensations in the body, emotions in the body. What thoughts circulate around our being kind to somebody else? Remembering there is no wrong answer here. There's no expectation to feel or think or be any way at all. Just completely open to the practice. And letting that story go. Coming back to the breath, back to the body. So the last one is recalling a time when we were kind to ourselves. And being patient with this. And there's many forms of kindness. Can we recall a time when we were kind to ourselves? We did something nice or helpful for ourselves. And can we feel that in the body? Any emotions or feelings? Any thoughts? And then however that's gone for us, whether it's easy or difficult, whether we managed to connect with it or not, whether we were too distracted or it was too tough. Just letting all of that go, coming back to this moment. Here where we are with our breath and our body. In this space, and coming back to the group. And I will pause the recording. Start the recording. So this next practice is called a loving kindness practice. It's sometimes called Metta practice. I think that's the Buddhist or Sanskrit word for that. And this is a way of cultivating kindness. So we use particular phrases directed at different things in a way without expectation, but just offering ourselves a seed of kindness in our experience. And sometimes that seed grows into a little seedling, sometimes it grows into a tree, but the more seeds we plant, the more chance we've got of growing some kindness in our lives. And this helps us as well to offer compassion into the world. So just coming back to that posture where we were before, whatever's comfortable for us, settled, at ease in our bodies, however that feels. Just perhaps scanning through the body and seeing if there's anywhere that wants to let go. Can we be kind to ourselves in our posture? Just letting go of tension around the brow, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders. Letting go of that first layer, then letting go of the layer of tension underneath that as well. And then finding that breath, finding the breath in the body. Perhaps noticing the different parts of the breath. The beginning and the middle and the end of the inhale. And then the turnaround and the beginning and the middle and the end of the exhale. Remembering we can come back to this breathing body at any time during the practice if we wander off. So the first thing we do in this practice is we bring to mind somebody or a pet, somebody who it's easy to offer kindness to. Some sort of maybe non-complicated relationship. Someone who it feels that this kindness could probably flow quite easily. And just picturing that person in our mind's eye. And offering them the words, may you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you go about your life with ease. May you feel safe. You can use those phrases or any kind phrases that might feel truer for you. A more authentic offering if you have one. How might you wish them well? There's no right or wrong way of doing this. Might be difficult. Just knowing that we're giving it our best shot is enough. So just repeating those phrases or whatever phrase you have created to wish this this animal or this person some kindness. And then switching the focus onto ourselves. And this can be difficult, so maybe an alternative might be a younger version of ourselves, a more innocent version. And we change the pronoun here. It's may I be happy. May I be well. May I live my life with ease. May I feel safe. May I be happy. May I be well. May I live with ease. May I feel safe. And we don't have to do this perfectly. We can allow whatever blocks are here to be there. And then we start to turn our attention, our focus of our kindness goes outwards again, and we can start bringing more people into this web of kindness. So maybe the people in our family or the people in our town. And we can stop there, or we can expand for the country or even the world. And offer those same kind messages. May you be happy. May you be well. May you live with ease. May you feel safe. And just spending the last few moments just reflecting on how that practice went, on how offering kindness feels. No expectations. And then whenever we're ready to, coming back to the group.